Doesn't take BS from anybody, and he's always looking out for you. He's Isaiah, and this is The Factor Uncensored.
It's another Friday night, and we're here live at the Union Kitchen in Bel Air. We're kicking off the Isaiah Factor Uncensored, and we want to ask you, give us just an hour of your time, and we will bring you entertainment, news, and information that you will need and that you will enjoy. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored, and it's a special dedication for Prince, and we're talking about Alphabet Street. Even Angela Box wore her purple today.
Yes, I did, and I'm actually surprised no one brought up the beautiful Chappelle Show skit. I just have one word to say, blouses, okay? Blouses. And you look like a purple slushie, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Okay, so I'm going to be nice to you this week.
Oh,
are you going to tell the people the text you sent me?
Oh, I'll be happy to. I'm like, try not to be a DIC whatever to me this week.
You said don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick to me this week because last week you tried to make the case that Barack Obama was tougher on immigration than any Republican, including Donald Trump.
I just gave you some stats.
Oh, please, ridiculous.
Now we're talking with Farouk Jami, who is here, and you had a crucial role in the Donald Trump episode. But first, before we get to Donald Trump, where you dropped all your sponsorships of all of his programs, first of all, I was so impressed with you. First of all, you pulled up in a Rolls Royce. You have on a pimp purple suit, gangster. That's just cool. That's just cool.
That's the American dream, right?
That is the American dream. So, Catherine, can you lead us in Purple Rain?
Oh, no.
I never meant to cause you any problems. I never meant to cause you any pain. Yeah. All I want is to say that I love you. I only want to see you laughing in the purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Come on, y'all, I want you to hear that.
That's it for the... And welcome back to the Isaiah Factor Uncensored. It's time to talk politics with Margaret Justice and Kathleen McKinley. Now, it's been crazy what's going on in Chicago with Trump supporters and protesters here. Kathleen, your opinion on what's happening at the University of Illinois?
Well, I even saw on Twitter something that kind of described what was happening. There were Trump supporters who were spitting on protesters, and there were protesters who were yelling F Trump.
And he's a pastor and a minister of music, but HPD says he was caught trying to buy a piece. Pastor Andrew Shaw says lies, all lies, and he's here to talk about it live on The Factor Uncensored. Let's kick off the show.
When the Houston Police Department says that you went out soliciting prostitution for sex, is that true? Obviously, you're a pastor, you're a minister of music here in the community. This could be very damaging to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it is not correct at all. The day that this happened, I pulled to the scene, and when I got there, the lady, I couldn't even say a word. She asked me for sex. I didn't give her a response. I didn't get her a call. I did not in no way agree to anything. And I looked over, I said, that looks like the undercover police. I felt it. And I began to immediately drive off. And when I drove off, the police department then pulled me off. They pulled me up and took me to jail. Didn't even tell me the reason why I was going to jail.
Now, the problem where you run into an issue is you signed a piece of paper with the Harris County District Attorney's Office saying you're guilty. Only a few days afterwards, you entered a guilty plea in order to avoid trial. Why did you do that?
Well, I did not know what a guilty plea was. When they told me
Wait, back up though, real quick.
Okay.
For an intelligent individual like yourself,
Absolutely.
Obviously, you know what innocent means and you know what guilty means.
Absolutely.
And so you're telling me you didn't know what guilty meant back then.
It wasn't presented to me as guilty, it was presented to me as time served. I had been in jail for some days, and it wasn't presented to me as a guilty plea. When they said time served, I literally thought that it was over.
Okay, let's just quickly take a look at this. This is a document that you signed, and it says misdemeanor plea of guilty.
Absolutely.
And so when you read that, and surely you can read.
Absolutely.
When you read misdemeanor plea of guilty, you didn't realize you were signing a piece of paper that said you were guilty.
Absolutely not. And you know what? I should have had a lawyer. I should have had a lawyer.
Now, you didn't have a lawyer because paperwork shows you have a lawyer here.
Oh, absolutely. I had no lawyer.
Here's Cynthia Healy.
No.
counsel.
No, I had no lawyer to
So
represent me.
Cynthia Healy wasn't there,
Absolutely not. I had
even
no
though
lawyer.
she signed the paperwork.
Absolutely not. I don't know who she is.
Okay. All right, I'll accept that.
Absolutely.
Even though she signed the documentation
Right.
saying that she was your counsel while you signed this paperwork, you're saying she was never there.
I talked to no attorney about this case. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. When I signed that paper, I signed it thinking that it was all over because they told me time served. Not a guilty plea at all.
It's no secret some attorneys around the country have found ways to rip off their clients. Recently in Houston, an attorney who's also a state representative was accused of not giving his client a $250,000 settlement check. That client said her daughter was killed in a car crash and the money was from the civil case. But for 2 years, Nancy Calloway said her attorney, State Representative Ron Reynolds, never gave her a dime. Calloway sued Reynolds, and a judge hearing the civil case awarded the mother $500,000. That money is to be paid by Reynolds.
Money doesn't replace your child. So this is just gets me closer to closure so that I can put rest in peace on a gravestone. This, whether I see another dime, whether I saw another dime from the beginning, there's nothing that replaces your child.
Reynolds says he is filing an appeal to the judge's ruling.
Joining us now live here on the Isaiah Factor Uncensored is State Representative Ron Reynolds. Representative Reynolds, what happened in that case? Did you keep this family's money of $250,000? If not, why didn't they find out until 2 years later, and why doesn't she have any money?
Well, Isaiah, I'm glad to be here today. The allegations were totally false. Unfortunately, the attorney did not meet a deadline, and there was a judgment based on a technicality. But we are appealing the decision. We're going to have a trial on the merits. We have the evidence and the documentation. I have the canceled checks. I have a settlement statement which she signed to show that she received every bit of the money from her settlement.
So how much money did she receive from you, and how much was the settlement?
Well, the settlement was for $250,000. I can't say because of attorney-client privilege how much she received, but she received more than 1/3 of the total settlement.
Now, why would she say and file a lawsuit and go into court and claim she received absolutely nothing, never heard from you in a 2-year period?
Well, actually, I have the documentation that I can show where it shows in black and white that she received the settlement, and I have the canceled check showing that she cashed the settlement check. The dispute arose because at the time she was married to someone who was her husband, and he received some of the settlement proceeds, and that's my understanding of why she was upset.
So you're saying someone in her family received some of the money.
She did.
And she received some of the money.
That's correct. That's correct. Absolutely.
So she went into court and lied. That's what you're
Well,
saying.
I'm not going to say she lied.
She said you didn't pay her
well,
the $250,000, and the judge gave a ruling for you for $500,000 saying pay that.
All I'm saying is that those allegations were not true, and we, through my attorneys, we're filing the proper paperwork for a motion for new trial so that we can present the documentation to the court to show that she received the settlement proceeds.
All right, State Representative Ron Reynolds. Now guys, I'm sorry. Welcome. You were just listening in.
Yeah, happy
Mark
to be
Bennett
right up
also
front
here
here.
with us. Rob Finkman joining us. Now, originally this segment was about attorneys who don't follow through with their clients and mislead their clients and don't give their clients a settlement. Now, State Representative Ron Reynolds is saying that's not what happened here, but we're still moving on with that issue. So if you have an attorney who does not turn over that settlement check or does not follow through in that case, what can you do? What are your options out there?
Okay, so you can sue them. And apparently this woman thought that she should sue her lawyer over the money. You can file a grievance with the state bar. Right. You can you can make a complaint. A lot of lawyers live and die on their reputations on the internet. And if you make a complaint on the internet, a bad review of a lawyer, it's often going to make an impression on that lawyer.
If a lawyer gets a bad review, that'll probably hurt him. People should not write bad reviews unless there's a legitimate reason. But if you have a lawyer that actually engages in criminal conduct, then they should be treated like anybody else that's engaged in criminal conduct, and the person should go to the district attorney's office, or if it's a federal crime, they go to the United States Attorney's Office or the FBI. I mean, unfortunately, in every profession, I'm not commenting on this gentleman's case at all, I'm not commenting on you, but in every profession, there are crooks, and there are crooked lawyers, and when they cross that line, people should report them to the authorities. We don't want crooked lawyers
to
out
fight
there.
your attorney?
I think people need to get help.
And is it expensive?
Well,
So is it difficult? Yeah, it's difficult because lawyers are engaged in the system. They're part of the system.
Right.
And so if you have a lawyer who has done wrong or who you feel has done wrong, the lawyer from the beginning has the advantage. There are lawyers who sue lawyers. There are lawyers who can help with that. But generally, unless there's something in it for the lawyer to sue the lawyer, well, the lawyer's going to charge you money, right? You hire a malpractice lawyer, that lawyer is either going to want money up front or is going to have to expect to get something out of the suit.
There's also lawyers in our community here that have gone to jail and prison who've engaged in massive fraud of clients, and they've gone to trial. They've been charged with crime. We had a lawyer last year that was convicted in federal court.
He's in prison.
Let's get back to Mr. Reynolds. We don't want him just State Representative Reynolds just standing there. Now, obviously, this is a case that ended up in court. How has it hurt or damaged you at all? Is there any damage there?
Well, Isaiah, I think anytime you have someone who holds public trust like me, you're an elected official, and you have allegations against you, it can cause damage to you. So my political opponent has tried to make hay out of it, tried to smear my name from it, and tried to use it as a political wedge to get votes. I mean, so yes, right now there are some who are trying to work against me to use this to cast me in a negative light so that people won't re-elect me. I would say that's the biggest factor right now.
Now, you have had your Barrett case in Montgomery County where
Yes.
you were convicted there.
Yes.
You're facing a year in jail there. You're appealing that, right?
Yes.
So why shouldn't people question your credibility and who you are as an individual if you've been convicted of a crime
I
already?
think it's a very legitimate question. But if you look at the facts, if you look at what happened in Montgomery County, you can see that there was absolutely zero evidence, Isaiah. Every single
But the jury
witness.
convicted
Well,
you.
anybody who looks at it, will see
got off on
that
the technicality there in
the
Harris County.
allegations against me were basically it was frivolous. I mean, it was a very racist. Has a history of racism in Montgomery County. I'm an African American Democrat who happens to be the House Democratic whip. It's an overwhelmingly Republican county. They didn't look at the evidence. They simply were judging me based upon, I believe, my race and my gender.
Montgomery County for years, and they've sent white people to jail. I don't think it was based on your skin color.
A lot
I think
of people
it was based on the evidence that the prosecutors had in this particular case.
No, absolutely not. In fact,
I think you're using racism as a scapegoat in this
I would like to
particular
sit down with
situation.
you and show you the transcript.
I
have a
have covered
transcript.
Montgomery County, and I've seen a white man go to jail for 60 years
I'm talking about
for
my
breaking into
particular
his
case.
girlfriend's
Well,
house.
that maybe they had evidence of it, but anybody who followed the trial, who was there and heard the witnesses, I have the transcripts. I'd like to show you the
Was it a
transcripts.
mistake that you defended yourself?
Maybe hindsight is 20/20. I would not have represented myself again, but regardless, the evidence was not there, and I'm almost certain 100% that it's going to be tossed out on appeal because there was no witnesses that supported the state's evidence. Not one single person. Even the accomplice witness said Reynolds had no knowledge of the solicitation. And in fact, the first trial of which I was charged with a felony, I was acquitted. And so this was a retrial on a misdemeanor case. And it is going to be thrown out of court.
All right. State Representative Ron Reynolds, thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And we'll be back with Crazy Ass Criminal. Where do you stand with Bruce Jenner, a.k.a. Caitlyn Jenner, getting this ESPY award when many people said he didn't deserve it for simply coming out the closet, and there are other athletes out there who truly deserved it?
Well, I think that's clearly the case. This was an effort by the industry to try to promote an agenda versus really honor an athlete in that sense. And, Bruce Jenner is another example of a really tragic story of somebody who has clearly gone through enough trauma in his life to where he's denying who he really always was. And it's just a process of a culture trying to deny reality. This isn't about equality, it's about reality and about whether we are created by God in his image and created male and female, or whether we're evolving animals. And we just happily believe that we choose to believe that we are male and female created by God, and we think Bruce is an American tragedy, not an American hero.
I think the real tragedy is that you call yourself a Christian. I think that's the real tragedy here. I think that in America today, I think the majority of people are on the right side of history, unlike Mr. Welch. And I think that America is really recognizing that people are people and that they deserve the same rights and respects regardless of what your personal opinions of them are. I think that Mr. Welch represents the portion of the population prior to the early 60s that thought it was popular to discriminate against African Americans. It would have been your line of thinking that would have led to the belief that even Isaiah.
Well, Isaiah, are we going to have a filibuster? Or are we going to have a conversation?
What if that's his personal feeling, that's his religion, and that's what they believe, and that's what you believe, and you want him to respect you, so why not respect what he believes?
I think that, I will respect his beliefs as long as his beliefs don't infringe on my rights as an American and as a Texan and my protections. I think that, Mr. Welch has pushed his agenda of hate while duping his followers who believe to follow the Christian principle of love thy neighbor.
And Dave, let me ask you about, are you pushing an agenda of hate? Explain that to me.
Sure, absolutely.
Of course you are.
It's, the reality is to push
back up, Nikki. Now we don't want no trouble.
That to tell our children something that is not the truth, to create confusion in the minds of children about their own biological makeup and reality of how they were born, how their chromosomes dictated who they are, how God created them. That's hate. And the reality is that we have to decide
hold on.
as a culture. Now, we need to live and decide. Everybody has to decide how they're going to live. Nobody should criminalize or degrade the humanity of others. And in fact, what we see now is the reverse happening. Christians are being criminalized and punished and threatened with jail and fines all over the country for simply living out the same principles and standards that have been part of this country's heritage for its beginnings. And I will say this one thing, Isaiah, it's offensive to our African American pastors and believers to compare sexual behavior and gender confusion with race. It's just simply not the same.
I think the only confusion is in your mind. I think that criminalizing people for using the restroom that they belong in. I, for example, as a 13-year-old child, was raped in a public restroom by a heterosexual male, a lot like you. And I just want, Americans, and especially transgender children in America, to be protected and safe.
Well, that's all the time we got. We want to thank you guys. This is a debate that will continue on, and we will not resolve it here.
Also tonight, one man describes them as bullying transgender gay gangs and is one violent group responsible for the recent deaths in Houston of a transgender woman and her male friend. A trans woman turned herself in for questioning this week in connection to the murders. Those in the LGBT community say many transgenders have their own handpicked groups they call families. But one man describes them sometimes as brutal, violent, territorial gay gangs willing to do anything to maintain respect and control on their block. Sounds crazy yet? To me it does. We'll explore that issue with the always controversial Quanell X and transgender woman Essence Augustus. And they're first up on the Isaiah Factor Uncensored tonight. And right now they are joining us live, Quanell X along with Essence Augustus. Now, one of the things we all have discussed specifically with you, that the possibility in Midtown and in Montrose there are transgender gay gangs out there who are violent, who are attacking people. What's your theory on that, Quanell?
Well, this is something that I learned when we conducted our investigation into the case of what happened involving the double homicide of the young transgender individual and the boyfriend or friend. What we learned is they don't call themselves gangs, they call themselves families. And what we learned is that certain families are like cliques, what you call gangs, but they run certain areas in their mind of Midtown area. And they don't want other families to cross in other families' territory.
Now let's ask.
I just totally disagree with
Essence Augustus, trans woman here. How do you disagree with that?
I disagree when it comes to the territories. See, when you're by yourself out there on the streets, families usually help raise people or just try to mold them. But that's totally not why I'm here, to give an education on that. What I really wanted to really address is the fact that we're not paying attention to really what happened that night. We're talking about all these things, talking about our statistics in our community, talking about our crime rate. We're really not talking about the crime that took place. That's really what we want to find out. What
now,
happened?
when you look at that crime that took place,
Yes,
though,
sir.
you're looking at a violent attack by a group
Brutal.
of people.
Brutal.
And one of the
8-2.
things you said is the person that may be in custody or is in custody
Has done this for a number of years.
Tell me about that.
In my experience, I can't speak on that night in particular.
Right,
I'm
right.
not the
We
juror.
understand that. We
I'm not the
understand.
juror. But I can say this with a clear conscience. It has happened a number of times over a number of years. And there are a lot of victims out there. And I came out here tonight to ask them to please stand up. Seriously.
Now, when you say victims, what were they victimized for? What were the reasons behind them being victimized?
You ever seen the movie Mean Girls?
Have not.
Oh. Well, it's one of those things where girls are catty. They're feisty and, it's just like mean boys. Just picking and bullying. And I just wanted to take it. I know the news is using a lot of these using the headline transgender a lot, when it's not just transgender people. At the end of the day, they're simply people, and they're going through a major issue, and we just want to get to the bottom of it.
Now, when we don't use the terminology transgender people, we get the hate mail.
Which is true.
So it's kind of like, damn if you do, damn if you don't.
Well,
So-
just like black issues, we get tired of people talking about black issues, like Black Lives Matter, lives matter. So that's how we feel at the same time.
Well, Isaiah, what I learned is that this case had nothing to do with somebody's sexual orientation or sexual choice. Because there are some who may call themselves transgender, transsexual, who may be drag queens, and they all identify differently. But one thing I learned is that prostitution, drugs, and crime is flourishing in the area where this crime took place. I'm not saying she's a part of anything. She must speak for herself. But one thing I did learn, nobody involved in this case are saints. None of them. Because I ran the criminal history of the victims in this case, as well as the one who was alleged to be involved as a person of interest. Everybody involved is not a saint in this case. And it's important that I want everybody to understand this. Look, there is a problem out there in that Midtown area. There's a serious prostitution problem in that Midtown
Can I
area.
ask you a question?
And what we have to do, whether we like it or not, I don't care what a person's sexual orientation is. That's not my business. That's between them and God. But at the end of the day, it is my duty to make sure that whoever killed this person is put behind bars, and we don't throw innocent people in jail, because I guarantee you there was more than just one person involved in this crime.
Yes, I believe
the point you wanted to make.
8-2. I don't want to debate or anything. The gay community has wanted your involvement for a long time because of your pillar in the community. We just have a question. Why is this the first issue that you've joined in?
I'm glad
you're on the wrong side.
I'm glad you raised that question. Now,
So you think the person that he brought in is guilty?
Hold on, wait a minute, Brother Isaiah. She raised a question to me. Now, let me answer the question, and let me educate you while we're here tonight. Because when the young man was beaten for being gay in Baytown, the Caucasian young gay white man, I stood up and protested for him. When the gay young man here in Houston was abused by HPD for being transgender, I stood up and fought for him. Now, this young man who I took in the other day, I believe he's innocent. So I don't care what your sexual orientation is. I'll stand for you if you're the victim of injustice. When the same-sex couple had their child given away to somebody else in Southeast Houston, I stood up and advocated for the same-sex couple. To me, it's about justice. It's about if you're the victim of injustice, your sexual orientation does not have anything to do
Let's
with
give
what
you
I'll
the
stand
last
for you
10
or not.
seconds because we're running out of time.
Mr. X, it's wonderful to have you on our side finally, but you're on the wrong side of the fence.
That's all the
And
time
I'm on
we
God's
have.
side.
We
We
want
don't
to thank
need to
you
be on
guys
God's
for
side.
coming
I
on the
appreciate
Isaiah.
it.
Wait, you're moving too
I'm
fast. You're going to
sorry.
pull my microphone. Be
I'm
still.
sorry.
Don't be hot. We'll be back after this.
I've done all I can do, man.
Also, he made his debut on the daily version of the Isaiah Factor. That's because Joe Anderson, a former NFL player for the Chicago Bears, suddenly found himself without work. So what did he do? He took to the streets and stood outside of NRG Stadium for a week with a sign saying, "We'll run routes for food." While the Texans did not budge or make Anderson an offer, the New York Jets had the good sense to reach out to a man who was willing to do what it takes to get back in the league. In December, Joe Anderson was signed as a wide receiver with the Jets, and every time he can, this NFL player thanks God. And that's a lineup for the Isaiah Factor Uncensored tonight.
And the man of the hour, Joe Anderson from the New York Jets, joining us live now here on the Isaiah Factor Uncensored. Hey, guys back there. Hey, we're live. Let's calm it down. We're live. So, Joe Anderson, you were out in front of NRG Stadium with a sign saying you will work in order to get back into the NFL. And you were out there a week, right? Mm-hmm. And it paid off for you. Unfortunately, you won't say it. I'll say it. The Houston Texans should have came for this guy. They passed you up every day. Rick Smith, all of the players, foolish. But now you're with the New York Jets. Let's give them a round of applause. Loss for the Texans, Houstonian native. So how was it out there, first of all, to stand with that sign? Apparently you have to swallow your pride in order to do something like that.
Yeah, well, I understood. I was thinking about the long haul. Rather than that moment, I knew that it was going to end up being a blessing to many people. It was going to give hope to a lot of kids, and I was trying to think about the positive side of it rather than the negative. Because don't no man want to go out and stand outside with no sign, you know.
Right.
You know, most people look at it, oh, well, that was a publicity stunt. I don't know nobody in America that want to go outside with a sign and embarrass themselves. But that was just a moment that I made a decision of what I wanted, made it up in my mind how I was going to do it. God gave me the vision, and I acted upon it. You know, I've always been a man of faith, a man who believed the word of God, and just went out there and knew what I wanted. I went and got it.
Now, it took off on social media, and when you finally got that call from the New York Jets, what was that like when you picked up the phone?
Man, it was a blessing because I didn't know when it was going to happen. I just knew it was going to happen. That's why, you know, during those times along the journey, I'll just continue to stay ready because I knew that no matter what my situation looked like right now, I know that chance going to come. You know, people would tell me, you know, hey, go do this, go do that. But no man can dictate my worth. I know my own worth. So that's the reason I was able to continue to stay humble, keep my peace, and realize what it was that I was after and actually go get it.
Now, you had unbelievable support on social media. Mm-hmm. People were supporting you. How do you think the New York Jets found out about you?
Well, you know, every team found out about it once they seen it. I'm pretty sure there's no team or coach that didn't know about it. Because
including the Texans, yeah. They didn't do a damn thing.
Well, you know, that's all right. That's all right. You know, I'm grateful that we get a chance to play them. So I'll, you know, hopefully, God willing, when that time comes, I can bless them and show them the reason why they shouldn't have passed up on me. But that's neither here nor there. I'm a Jet. I'm very grateful that someone was willing to see the true potential inside of me. Because all it takes is one team. I can't play for 32 teams, only one.
Right.
And that's all it took was that one shot. That's all I needed. And the Jets understand what they took a chance on. You know, they had a chance to see that when I was at practice and all those things. So I'm just grateful that someone seen the true potential inside of me because a lot of people in this life that we live pass up on you every day because they're looking at what's on the outside. But when they really just see what's on the inside, I mean, you can bring value to a situation.
Now, you were someone who was willing and committed and ready to get back into the NFL, and then you look at individuals like Johnny Manziel, who had everything, and then he's just been kicked to the curb by the Browns. What is it like seeing that, someone to have everything and just to throw it away?
Well, you know...
And obviously he needs some help, too.
Yeah. Situations like that, man, you'll look at it on the outside looking in as just a guy that's just taking it for granted, rather than taking advantage of the opportunity, because there's a lot of people that don't get that opportunity. And when you get in there and you handle the situation like that, it kind of is like a slap in God's face because he blessed you to be in a position that everybody's not blessed to be in. So, you know, I hope things get better for that brother and he lands somewhere great. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a learning experience for him to know that he can't take things in life for granted because he may not get another shot. You know what I mean? So
right.
If he looked back at this situation like, man, you know, why was I foolish like that? Why? But if he does get another shot, he can grow from it. He has a testimony behind it. So.
And real quick, we just have a new quarterback here at the Houston Texans, Brock Osweiler. What's your opinion of him? Are you excited for the Texans, at least from afar, because it is your hometown team?
Well, you know, this is not my hometown, first and foremost. I'm from Texarkana, Texas. I went to college at Texas Southern. And Houston Texans passed up on me a numerous amount of times. They were supposed to draft me.
We see where this is going.
It's all right. It's just, I'm used to being doubted. I've been doubted my whole life, so it's actually a blessing to me just to see people pass up on me, because I'm used to it. I don't have any hard feelings with the Texans. That was a decision that they made, and like I said, I'm a New York Jet, and I'm grateful. But as far as the young man, the quarterback, I really don't know much about him, so I can't say, how happy I am about it, but I'm glad that he got an opportunity to sit behind a guy like Peyton. I think that he's going to be a really good fit in that program. So, blessings to him.
All right, Joe Anderson, wide receiver for the New York Jets.